this lab, we're going to perform some capital budgeting, specifically net present value. So net present value takes into account a company's required rate of return or cost of capital and sees if it beats it, see if the return is greater than essentially what the cost would be. So to do our net present value, we need to address the question of, hey, how sensitive is the net present value to varying assumptions we might make? And so let's go ahead and get started. We're going to do that by starting a new chat here. And so you can see we start a new chat and it kind of clears the registers that we need. And so it looks like we're starting fresh here as mentioned. And we're going to mention some parameters. And we're going to say, hey, what is the net present value if the year zero cash outflow is negative 50,000? Now this is kind of incomplete, and so we're going to see what it asks us. If it asks us about a rate of return, and so it says, hey, we need a discount rate. And so in this case, we're going to use a discount rate of 8%. So let's go ahead and say the discount rate or the cost of capital or the required rate of return is 8%. Okay, so that's kind of the cost of the funds or the opportunity cost for our funds. And so if the discount rate is 8%, then we're going to go and look at the formula, and the 8% would figure right in here as R, and we're going to look at what it might look like over the various periods. And we see we have kind of year by year cash flows, and the net present value is 2062. So that works pretty well for us. Now what we want to look at is what the varying assumptions will give us. And so if we vary the cash inflow or the cash outflow, given the 8% discount rate, will that affect the outcome? And so we say, hey, if that year zero cash outflow varies, and we're going to look at it at steps of 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 for each of those. And then if the cash inflow varies from 8,000 to 20,000 rather than the given 10,000 per year, we're going to ask what is the net present value. This is the sensitivity analysis. This is where we're seeing how sensitive it is to varying assumptions. And so it can see this is what is given. It's still 8%, and it's going to go one by one and calculate that. And it's going to give us a table here. And so we can see, hey, if the cash inflow is 8, present value of the cash inflows will be 41,650. If subtracting the initial 40,000 investment, there's the net present value. You can kind of see what that looks like. And we're now going to ask it for a heat map. So I'm going to ask it to provide this as a heat map visualization, and that will kind of allow us to see all the combinations at once with some color, and so we can kind of see what the varying amounts look like. And so we'll just wait a second for it to produce that heat map, and the heat map is going to vary across the board here. And so you can kind of see here. Now, typically accountants like green to be the most money and red to be the least, but that's not what the default here was. But here's the cash outflow, and here's the cash inflow, and then this is the relative return you would get as far as net present value, so you can kind of see that. Now, we could probably change that up a little bit to show dollar figures as well, but you can kind of see what that would look like. Now we could also vary the discount rates. We could say, hey, let's vary that from 5 to say 12% and see how it varies that way too. So this was what we needed to do. We want to ask it now to provide a heat map as a PNG file, and so let's go ahead and do that. And so it can output it and we can save that. Now I usually like to name it something specific like Richley Analytic 23 or something, but here is that heat map, and it's going to download here, and so you can kind of see what that looks like. I like naming it something specific so I can find it again in the future. And then I'm going to ask it to output the prompts given to the screen. And so these are going to be what we gave it. And so sometimes it's interactive. Now it said, after we entered this, it said, well, what's the discount rate? And we went in and input the discount rate. Here's where we asked it to vary the assumptions, the outputs, as a heat map and then as a file, and then the outputs given. And so those would be the prompts you would use. So that completes this lab.